The hikers were taken aback when they came across a solitary horse in the woods. They couldn't fathom why a horse would be in such an area. However, upon closer inspection, they stumbled upon something extraordinary. Join us as we explore what unfolded next. There are many people have gone through the anguish of losing a beloved pet, be it due to their pet wandering out of the yard, slipping off their leash, or running away in some other manner. The distress of looking for a lost pet without any knowledge of their whereabouts can be a harrowing experience. The thought of them being frightened, hungry, or mistreated adds to the agony of the situation. Although it is a heart-wrenching and scary ordeal to have a pet go missing, owners of larger animals, such as horses, may not believe that they have to confront this problem. However, as our story for today illustrates, surprisingly, it still occurred. Susan Crawford comes from York, Pennsylvania, but she liked nothing more than to take trips with her horse. This horse is a Paso Fino chestnut horse called Play-Doh. They often competed in competitive trails, and the duo had to train for these events by going to parkland areas. They were as experienced in riding these types of trails as any horse and rider could be, but even some of the best rider could get into accidents. Susan and her horse were riding on a trail as she didn't know. The friend that was with them wasn't very familiar with the area either. It was a heavily wooded place, and when they came to a fork in the road, they had no idea which way to go. They couldn't see far enough on the trail to figure out which way to go, so they just picked a side and went with it. It turns out that it was the wrong way, and they ended up on a dead end. It was a slightly steep area with an edge. They tried to turn around to go back to the main trail, but then the edge of the trail started to crumble under them. They started to slide, and Play-Doh couldn't get his footing back. His hind legs folded, and Susan couldn't stay on her horse. She fell off, and the wind was knocked out of her. It scared Play-Doh, and he took off running away. Their friend checked on Susan, but when she realized Susan was fine, she took off after the runaway horse. But by then, Play-Doh had disappeared into the dense bush. The horse had a neon-cultured tack that was still on him, and Susan was sure that with such a bright tack, he would be spotted very easily, but she wasn't going to count on that. She would get all the help that she could. As soon as she got back to the campground, she went to talk to everyone that she could about her missing horse, and also phoned the police to help her get him back. She went into full-on damage control mode and did everything that she could to get her horse back. They made a Facebook page to spread awareness of the horse, and they printed posters that were put up everywhere that the searchers could think of. Some local news stations even reported on his loss. In reality, there were many people that got together to try and help Susan find Play-Doh. Just some of the groups that tried to help her were the Howard County, Maryland Police and the Maryland State Police. The outdoor community really rallied for them too. The League of Maryland Horsemen Club also helped with the search, and also regular hikers and bikers in the park searched too. The Horse Club brought extra horses so that more people could search the park daily. They covered all the areas that they possibly could. But even with all that help, the horse wasn't seen anywhere. They didn't even see any signs of his gear being caught on anything or find some sort of trace. It was heartbreaking for Susan. She wanted to try everything. They even spoke to people with helicopters and drones, but the terrain was too dense for that to be able to work. Not knowing where the horse was torture for Susan. She couldn't sleep, and every morning she woke up and hoped that he had somehow made his way back to camp, but he never did. She walked the trail to where she last saw him, but he wasn't there either. Their Facebook stories were shared thousands of times, and the news kept sharing the story often. It got their story out everywhere. Susan got many phone calls from people wanting to know what they could do. Some just wanted to ask for updates, but there were a few that tried to help. Then one day around the 10th day that Play-Doh was missing, Susan got the call that she had been hoping for. Someone had found Play-Doh. She dropped everything and drove to the farm where the horse was found. From a distance, the horse did look like Play-Doh. He had the same coloring and size, but as soon as Susan got close, she realized that this wasn't the right horse. It turns out that the horse had come loose from the neighboring farm. They were happy to get their horse back, but that still didn't help Susan. It had been 12 days since Play-Doh had disappeared. At another hiking trail about 3 miles or 4.8 kilometers from the site of the accident, Three friends were getting ready to go on a hike. Emily Perryman, Vlad Constantina, and David Sugar took a trail out from the Woodstock Inn, but before they left, they saw a lost horse sign at the end. As they walked, they kept joking about the person that was able to lose an entire horse. They didn't understand how it could happen, and since they were sure that the horse should be home safe by then, they enjoyed joking about it. Then they moved on to speak up about other subjects and have fun. They had walked for a little while and heard sounds in the bush. At first, they were a little nervous to check it out, but they were too curious to just let it go. Laughing nervously, they got out their flashlights to protect themselves. Then they crept closer, and were shocked when they saw the figure standing between the trees. It was a horse. They looked around to see if the rider was around somewhere, but the horse was on his own. He was stuck in the trees by his leash, and they could approach him easily. They still had to saddle and tack on, even if it wasn't on properly anymore. The horse was really freaked out and scared, but they spoke softly to him and then cut him loose. They couldn't believe that they had found the horse from the poster. They led him back to the inn and were just grateful that he was able to walk. After 12 days on his own, they were surprised that he could. They knew that they had to phone the horse's owner as quickly as possible. When Susan received a call from New Jersey, she wasn't sure if she was even ready to answer it. All the calls she had been receiving were becoming overwhelming, and she didn't believe that this call would be any different. Still, she couldn't leave anything to chance, so she answered, but the call wasn't very clear. She just made out that Emily was saying that they found her horse. She was frightened that it, once again, wouldn't be her horse. But when she got there, she was overjoyed. They had really found Play-Doh. The horse seemed to be just as happy to see his human mom as she was to see him. He came up to Susan and put his head down on her shoulder. She said it was like he was thankful that she had found him. It was shocking that they found the horse after such a long time. There were numerous possible scenarios for what might have happened to him. He could have been abducted, involved in a car accident, or preyed upon by wild animals in the forest. Yet, they had a chance to reunite now. However, there was something even more astounding to behold. As they inspected him closely, they were surprised to find that the horse was, in fact, in reasonably good health despite his traumatic experience. The horse had sustained minor injuries, such as cuts and scratches caused by his tack and saddle rubbing against his skin. Despite having a larger cut on his leg, the horse seemed to be recovering satisfactorily. It was surprising that he wasn't undernourished or parched, possibly due to his access to the park's abundant vegetation and water sources. With the assistance of those who cared for them, Susan was able to take Play-Doh back home. In no time, Play-Doh was able to resume riding on the trails again. I hope you liked this video. Please share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.